Joining us right now on Texans Radio, Ben McDaniels, wide receivers coach and passing game coordinator for your Texans. Coach, how's it going?
Great.
Well, great to have you in studio with us. And your reaction to the changes taking place in the building. Lovie Smith now the head coach. You moved to wide receivers, pass game coordinator. How's that been for you so far, and what are your feelings on it?
It's been awesome. A lot of moving parts, some new faces, obviously, that we've added to the building, which is great. But then on the other side of that, there's plenty of familiar faces. There's a bunch of us that were a part of it a year ago, and grateful to continue to be part of it.
Coach, as the game has evolved, and I know you've been around it for a long time, we've seen positions, run game coordinator, pass game coordinator. I think for a lot of fans, what does that mean to be pass game coordinator? What does that allow you to do, be it during the week, game day, et cetera, to be the pass game coordinator? What does that allow you to do?
Yeah, I think it just puts my focus on the passing game for us offensively. And Pep and Lovie have put their trust in me to use my expertise and my vision and to be able to help our passing game in numerous ways, both through the week and on game day.
All right, so wide receivers in the offseason, it felt like there were 47 receivers in the building, and I know it whittled down. You got to the regular season, but let's focus on Nico for the moment because he's entering his so-called sophomore campaign in the NFL. What'd you make of his progress throughout his rookie campaign?
I thought he made great progress. I was really impressed with how he came in. First and foremost, I had a past with Nico. I was with Nico at Michigan for a handful of years, so I had a familiarity with him. And even saying that, I was that much more impressed with how he came into the building, his readiness, his physical shape, and then from there, really all the traits that he already is kind of took over. He's a great person. He works as hard as you could possibly want him to work. He wants to be great, and a lot of those things contributed to his success a year ago.
He opted out in 2020. Did you see any sort of rust that he had to sort of bang off, if you will, to kind of get ready for 2021?
No, I mean, that's kind of where I'm going with that.
Yeah.
He didn't have a 2020 season, so I had missed a year, watching him play. So, again, I give him a lot of credit for how he came in last year.
At the other end of the spectrum is a grizzled vet, Brandin Cooks. What did you see with Brandin last year, and what did he mean to this offense, and what can he mean going forward?
Yeah, he's a pretty special person. Really important to our building. He's a great professional. He's a great leader, both in the receiver room and our locker room. He's a vital piece to all the young guys that need to look for somebody to follow. Brandin for sure is that. It was special for me to be around him. He's got a lot of years in this league and has had a significant amount of success. So, he's a vital piece.
Ben McDaniels joining us on Texans Radio. Coach, tell us about the Pep Hamilton offense and how it's going to be different, if at all, this year, the system.
Yeah, I'll let everybody else either talk about that or watch that whenever that becomes the case. But I know Pep does a great job of organizing who we want to be, and really utilizing our people is really the truth. Utilizing the skills of our players and letting our players' talents shine within the system and within the offense, and that's obviously the goal. To help us score as many points as we can.
Growing up, did you know coaching was it for you? Like, did you think coaching that it was written in stone? You were going to be a coach. Did you know that growing up, or it just kind of evolved that way for you?
I think so. There was a period of time, I think, probably in my college years, where I wondered what avenue that is, especially within sports.
Yep.
But I grew up in it. I'm grateful to have grown up in it. I grew up in a place where you learn how to love football. That has never left me, and that's really what has driven me into the profession and allowed me to love what I do.
You could probably write a book on the differences of coaching high school athletes, college athletes, pro athletes. You were at Canton McKinley, quarterbacks coach. Warren G. Harding, that's where you started your career. And also, even numerous NFL teams in Michigan, you were just mentioning that. What are the key differences here, Coach?
I think every level of football, the maturity of the player changes, obviously, both physically and mentally. I think as you continue to grow into college and the NFL game, your expectations for what the players can and can't know changes greatly, and your ability to push who they are mentally, push who they are physically. I think that just continues to grow as you get older and play at the different levels.
I've always been of a mindset: if you can coach, you can coach. If you can coach, I mean, you can coach little guys, you can coach big guys. I mean, I've always been of that mindset. That you can do that. Now, receivers are always tied into one particular position that everybody wants to talk about. Coach, what did you see with Davis Mills, and how did he create that synergy with your receivers, especially when he came back in the lineup to start back in December?
Yeah, I think he has a great confidence about who he is. He's very comfortable in his own shoes, and he does a great job communicating with the receiver group. I think he got more and more comfortable a year ago. And I think the production on the field showed that. Yeah, he has a great demeanor about how he goes about football, both in the building and out on the practice field.
What are some of the tougher things about coaching receivers? Because look, to the layperson, all right, you're running a 15-yard out. Well, if you're starting at the 43 or whatever, count 15 yards and run the out. So how much of it is timing that you have to work on versus feel versus whatever, Coach?
It's all of that. It is. It's all of that. We're doing some math every once in a while.
Yeah.
But it's really developing habits and developing a rhythm with how you go about kind of getting yourself open. There's a lot of pieces, parts that go into that, both at the start of the route and at the top of the route. And then before any of that, it's my job to help them anticipate what is it going to be post snap, based on what it looks like pre snap. So there's a lot of things that go into that in the passing game.
Receiver or otherwise, just because you coach the position doesn't mean that you grew up loving that particular position, but did you have a player or two that you looked up to and thought, those are my guys?
I was an Ohioan, and this is blasphemous in some ways, but I really wasn't a Browns fan.
That's okay.
I was from Northeast Ohio, so Cincinnati really wasn't a part of it either. I probably was a Joe Montana 49ers guy growing up as much as anything, but more than anything, I grew up loving high school football. My dad was a high school head coach my entire life, so my favorite players, my favorite teams are all high school teams and high school players from my childhood.
So give us one. Well, you coached at Canton McKinley.
Yeah. Ryan Henry, Jeff Richardson, guys that came up through the 80s playing for my dad when I was just a little boy. The names are endless for me. Being on the sidelines, running around the huddle and running around at practice and those things. But the names are endless of all those great Canton McKinley teams.
All right, so you go to Kent State, all right? So we were talking about your brother and how, hey, you have D1 here, okay? Golden Flashes, Kent State all the way, Mid-American Conference. I used to be in the MAC, too, as an announcer, so I feel that. But tell us why you go there.
I think being close meant something to me more than I even realized then. It's not far from Canton. And so I appreciated that, and I think that was something that was inviting to me. Dean Pease, I was excited to go play for him. He's been around this league for a long time,
right?
In different capacities, and he was phenomenal to play for and be a part of his program. I had teammates that went there from my high school team, so it was really a pretty easy fit for me, and it was a good place for me.
So when people want to visit and they come visit you in Canada, they immediately like, let's go to the Hall of Fame. Is that someplace they all want to go? I mean, how many times have you been there?
Yeah, I've been there an uncountable amount of times. Really, honestly, multiple times a year, most years of my life, especially growing up. Yeah, you should. If you're going to Canton,
Yeah.
there's no reason that you shouldn't go to the Hall of Fame. It's a special place.
All right, outside. By the way, before I get to this next question, working at Michigan, being from Ohio, that had to be a little bit weird, right? I mean, that uniform, you were conditioned to not like those guys.
Again, I say this again. My dad was a head football coach at Canton McKinley High School, and that's really all that mattered to us growing up.
Yeah. Okay.
We didn't grow up Buckeyes. We didn't we didn't grow up Browns fans.
God, good for you.
We grew up fans of my dad's teams.
Yep.
And that probably disconnected me from all the things that you're talking about, Mark. Because and to be honest, I probably was as much of a Michigan fan growing up as anything. And I don't particularly even remember all those reasons.
Yeah.
But I grew up a Canton McKinley Bulldog fan, and then everything else was just kind of on the outside.
It's interesting hearing you say that because I was a Marinette Marine fan forever, and just like you, I can remember the guys that played for my dad. I can remember being the same, like you talked about. I was going to ask you about that. Run around on the sideline as a little kid. I mean, I was just doing that all the time. It's like, those are the guys that I grew up. I wanted to be like Marinette Marines, and it wasn't until I came to Houston that I realized, holy cow, there's another world of football out there. But your time at Michigan, just being at the big house, being with Pep there at Michigan, I can't remember if you were on the staff. They went to Rome. Were you on the staff? They ended up going
I wasn't.
to Rome.
That was a year. That was a year ahead of me being there.
Jim was always kind of pushing the envelope with different things. What was it like to work for Jim and to be there with the Wolverines?
It's what you just said. He pushes the envelope. He thinks outside the box on how he approaches the game, how he approaches the program, and does a great job building the program. For the players, the coaches, and obviously has done a great job at the university.
All right, so after living in Ann Arbor, Denver, suburban New York, when you're at Rutgers, all these different places,
You're leaving out a bunch of places.
Yeah, I know. I can't go through them all.
Yeah.
But what do you think of Houston being here, being a resident?
Love it. More importantly, my wife loves it. She's a warm weather girl. She's from Denver, which wouldn't suggest she's a warm weather girl, but she went to school at Arizona, and I think she's been stamped that way ever since. So more importantly, she loves it here. We've really enjoyed the community, really love the people, really love all the things that we get to do with our kids. Our kids are young, almost 9, 6, and 1. So there's a million things for us to do with our kids, and for the most part, we get to do it outside.
All right, Coach, thanks a lot for joining us. Good luck.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.